He dreamt of ruling the Muslim world, but he can barely control Istanbul. That's the story of Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He's been leading Turkiye for more than 20 years now, first as Prime Minister, then as President. In this time, he has dismantled most good things in the country, whether it's the fair democratic process or the independent judiciary or the famous Turkish secularism. But now the people have had enough. They have risen up in rebellion. Today marks the 7th night of public protests in Turkey. Take a look.
Mücadeleye devam.
The trigger was a detention last week. Turkish officials took Istanbul's mayor into custody last Wednesday. His name is Ekrem Imamoglu. He's now in jail over corruption charges. Imamoglu is not just any other Turkish politician. He is Erdogan's chief rival. He was supposed to be nominated as a presidential challenger last week. Basically, he was to take on Erdogan in 2028. The election is still far away. And days before that, before his nomination, he was detained. Coincidence? Certainly not. Erdogan might as well have slapped the handcuffs on Imamoglu. That is how complicit he was. The protest may have started against this arrest, but now it's about a lot more. It's about the lack of jobs in the country. It's about the rising inflation. It's about the shrinking civil liberties. And it is about imposing conservative Islamic rules. You can basically take your pick. Because President Erdogan has messed up virtually everything in Turkey. Yet he remains defiant. He is blaming the opposition party for spreading violence, and he has called them primitive and weak.
Son 5 gündür.
What we have witnessed in the last 5 days has shown us the truth again. A country like Turkey has a main opposition party that is too small, too primitive, and too weak in terms of foresight, vision, and quality. It has become apparent once again that they could not be trusted to run a country, let alone local governments, or even a buffet.
Bunları bırakın devleti.
Erdogan's cops are using pepper spray on peaceful protesters, but sure, the opposition is primitive. So far, around 1,200 people have been detained, and this includes journalists as well. But how did Turkey reach this situation? This country was once seen as a model for West Asia, a secular, progressive democracy. What happened to those values? In one word, Erdogan. That's what happened. Initially, his policies did deliver growth, but in the last decade, it's been a train wreck. Just look at their currency, the lira. In March 2015, $1 was equal to 2.6 lira. Do you know how much it is today? From 2.6 to almost 38 lira. $1 is 38 lira. That is Erdogan's legacy in the last decade. Though one number has risen under his rule, and that is inflation. Last month, Turkey's inflation was at 42%. His own policies contributed to this. Until recently, Erdogan pushed for Islamic economic policies, and a big part of that was low interest rates. You see, Islam frowns upon charging interest. So President Erdogan said, we will not hike lending rates. Even when inflation crossed 50%, Erdogan said no. He let his own people suffer for his beliefs. Meanwhile, he was more focused abroad. Erdogan was busy spreading the Arab Spring around West Asia. He was busy talking about Kashmir. Every UN meeting, Erdogan would do the same. His usual spin plus Kashmir. Nobody asked for his advice or suggestions, but Erdogan gave it anyway. He talked about the so-called oppression in Kashmir. You want to know who's really oppressed? These Turkish protesters on your screens, they are being bludgeoned with water cannons, beaten back with batons and doused with pepper spray. This is what oppression looks like. Erdogan forgot the most simple rule of politics. Fix your country first, then lecture abroad. If not, this will be the result. Also at blame are the morality professors in Washington and Brussels. Where have they disappeared? The European Union released a weak statement. They asked Turkiye, and I'm quoting, to uphold democratic values. I'm sure Erdogan is trembling with fear. And the Americans? Well, they're simply following the events in Turkey. The State Department called it an internal judicial matter. Why the soft approach? Because the West needs Erdogan. He is key to doing business with the new regime in Syria. He's a key channel between Ukraine and Russia. He's also a member of NATO, hence the blind eye to this crackdown in Turkey. Donald Trump's ally, Elon Musk, is actively supporting Erdogan. He has suspended X accounts of Turkish opposition leaders. I guess free speech dies in the Bosphorus. All of this makes one thing quite clear. The battle lines have been drawn in Turkey. Erdogan has survived worse than this. But remember, he's a lot older now and a lot more unpopular than he was. Plus, he's facing a younger, charismatic challenger. In his pursuit of rebuilding the grand Ottoman legacy, Erdogan may have jeopardized his own or whatever was left of it.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Bluntly, Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.